This time on the show, oh my god, we're running out of IP version 4 addresses! And that's why I sit down with Joe Klein and get schooled on IP version 6. All that and more, this time on Hak5.
Yeah, hook me up, I'm ready.
This episode of Hak5 is brought to you by GoToAssist Express. Support smarter with GoToAssist Express. Netflix, go to www.netflix.com/hak5 to get your free trial membership. And domain.com. Got a great idea? It all starts with a great domain. Domain.com. Hello and welcome to Hak5. My name is Darren Kitchen and this is your weekly dose of Technolust. Coming to you from a ladder. With some wine. Got an excellent show for you guys. As you know, we are back from Toorcon, talking to some fun people there about all things hacker stuff under the sun. Unfortunately, well, we did have planned to talk to Chris Silvers about some social engineering stuff. Unfortunately, the mic packs decided that that wasn't going to happen, so my apologies to you, although thank you so much for at least spending the time to talk to me about this, and yeah, that's just a lesson learned when you're going to do a con by yourself. Or con solo, if you will. But we do have an excellent interview for you guys this week. And you know what? I don't even think interview is even the right word. But we're talking to Joe Klein, friend of the show, about IP version 6. And really, I'm looking at it back in editing, just thinking like, oh, how am I going to chop this up and stuff? And realizing there's nothing to chop out. It's really good. Like, I'm just getting schooled. So if you're, if you know IP4 and you've heard about this IP6 stuff and you're curious, well then just join this and watch this conversation and I hope you soak some of this up. There's a bunch of links at the end for where you can learn more and get yourself certified and start playing with some fun IP6 stuff. So I think you guys are going to enjoy that. So stick around. It is, I'll let you know, kind of a long segment. Like, okay, it's 45 minutes. So, with that all said, if you were looking for more of a shorter episode, check out Season 3, Episode 11. With the ladder and I are having more fun. I'm serious. It's a short one with a ladder. Otherwise, yeah, I think that that's pretty much it for right now. I will see you guys on the other side, but considering the length of it and how I don't really want to chop it up and all that stuff, leave it completely commercial-free, interrupted, whatever. In the center. So let's go ahead and thank two of our sponsors, and I will see you at the end of the show. Cheers. If you've got a creative idea or want to start a new business, I recommend getting a domain name and web hosting from domain.com. Domain.com has the domain you want, fast, easy, and inexpensive. With free domain tools including URL and email forwarding, DNS management, and transfer lock. Their Linux-powered hosting plans are dependable, flexible, and affordable too. With free setup and no commitment required, their deluxe hosting offers unlimited bandwidth and site builder pages at a mere $8.75 a month. They even make it dead simple to get started with plenty of free software like WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and more, all installed in just a few clicks. And as a Hak5 viewer, you get an extra 15% off your order when you check out with coupon code HAK5. Got a great idea? It all starts with a great domain, domain.com. If you're an IT or software consultant, you're always looking for ways to be competitive. You need to grow your business, but you can't be in two places at once. And that's why I recommend remote support with the new GoToAssist Express. The faster you can connect to a customer, the faster you can move on to the next challenge. With GoToAssist Express, you'll increase revenue by handling more support requests, reduce travel time and overhead costs, support clients even when they're not at their computers, and rise above the competition by providing faster, more professional service. Hak5 viewers can try GoToAssist Express free for 30 days. For this special offer, you must visit gotoassist.com/hak5. That's gotoassist.com/HAK5 for a free trial. So just when I thought I had a grasp on the internet, Joe Klein's here to make me even more confused. Joe, thanks. What's up, man?
Yeah, man.
You've been just blowing my mind with the IP6 stuff. Mubix was on last episode talking to us about some other IP6 stuff.
Great guy.
And yeah, and I just hope that you can help me grok a little bit better, because it's just crazy to think that, I mean, I understand that supposedly we're running out of IP4 addresses and stuff, but do we really need to go to IP6 now? Because it sounds like we have to learn a lot of new stuff, and that's hard.
Yeah, that is actually hard. What's interesting is IPv6 was a rethink. It was not just to add the addresses. It was a rethink so that we could re-engineer the technology, make it easier for us to manage and secure networks. A lot of that stuff wasn't available before. They've added a lot of those features. We're going to talk about some of those if you have time.
Yeah, because there's new features in, like, if you actually dissected an IP packet, like 4 versus 6, it's a lot bigger of a packet, right? I mean, there's like a lot more room in the header for more features, aren't there?
Well, actually, in an IPv4 packet, the packet can be 20 octets to 60 octets. An IPv6 packet is exactly 64 bits, which happens to be, the same size as processor sizes today.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I see why now.
Processor alignment, yes.
That's so cool.
Yes.
Well,
so let's talk about the actual why we're running out and some of the issues that we're running into. It was funny, back in 1992, IETF, the Internet Task Force.
Task Force, yeah.
Yeah, they started looking at utilization of IPv4 addresses, and they started projecting it out, and they said, you know, we're going to probably run out around 2010, 2011, 2012, which happens to be pretty close.
Yeah.
So what they did was they started down the process to
That's
find
when we all
addresses.
started natting everything, though. You know?
Exactly. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah. So from the IP addresses from 2000, we ended up going from barely anything to almost 400% growth in 10 years. It's a lot of additional addresses
40%
used.
growth, but you're talking about the difference between you using like 10% of the IP space to what?
Yeah, actually, we only have as of this recording, we only have 226 days left of IP addresses. So get your IP addresses now.
I know that it's actually a pain to request more.
Oh, yeah.
I've had to do the forms where you have to justify and you say, no, I actually need, please, can I have 8 more? I have this server, and you totally have to outline it. You can't just say, can I have 8? And they're like, why?
Exactly. One of the things that's happening is the maximum size of the internet, you know, we know it's below 4 billion. Everybody has more than one device. I mean, how many cell phones and other devices do you have?
Just within 30 feet of us, there's probably, I don't know, half dozen devices.
Exactly. I have over 30 devices in my own home that are all IP devices.
Yeah.
What's happening is the average user right now only has 2 devices. So if we take just the amount of users...
Their laptop and their cell phone?
Yeah, exactly. So if we only take the amount of users out there and we double it, that's a lot of use of IP ranges. Okay, now the current projection by 2020 is 10 IP addresses per user. So all of a sudden, instead of having, we have 2 billion people online right now.
Right.
Already we're at 4 billion addresses used.
But you're talking about, okay, sure, my cell phone has a public, my router has public, right? But then I've got, like, you know, my TiVo, my Xbox, all of those other devices. I can see how you can get 10 devices per user, but they're all within my home, so they don't need a public IP, do they?
Ah, well, you know, wouldn't it be nice if you're on the road and you wouldn't have to buy, say, a swing box, and you could bounce through your own server to watch videos from whatever location because you live there?
Yeah, well,
wouldn't it be nice to have your phone actually forward from your home phone to here and doing it securely?
I mean, kind of, but I mean, I'm doing like a lot of SSH tunneling to make things work right now.
Right. Well, this actually would be done not at the application level. This would be done at the network level. So this would be just be a configuration wherever you go. The setup's done. You know, you move on, which is pretty cool.
So what happens in, quote unquote, 229 days when we run out? And they don't just give out the last IP, you know?
Yes, actually they do.
They do, and then that's it?
And then anybody who wants to open a new business will have to pay a higher rate. There's already a market forming where IP addresses are going to be charged, you know, maybe $35 to $100 per IP per month or per year, depends on who you're talking to right now. So is it like
domain squatting? You start like selling off IPs?
Yes, people are already looking at it. Yeah? Unfortunately,
I got a /16, you know, you can make like buku bucks.
Exactly. So people are looking at that. What's interesting is if you get a single IPv6 address like you do in your home, you get to the 64th power home system. So for your one network, you get more.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that because it's not CIDRNet anymore. It's not like
no
/24/8 whatever. How do you define how many IP addresses you're allocated? I mean, like originally, because I guess to break it down to those that aren't familiar, you know, with IPv4, there was the class A, B, and C networks, depending on, and then that was like, whoa, that, you know, you don't need a class C, you need a, and then that's where, you know, CyberNet came in, the /8, 16s, 24, all those different, you know,
You're
number
psychic. I was just going to talk about that.
Okay, well, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
like, to break that down, that's why we have those, because it's like, you don't need 254, but we'll give you 6, we'll give you 8, whatever it is that you need.
If you remember, well, you're young, so it's okay. But the reason we broke it up into A, B, C was it was easier on the routers. They didn't have to actually figure out how to route every single unique address range.
You could do it with like awk.
You could do it in blocks,
Yeah.
so it made it real easy. IPv6 has the same exact concept. The first 64 bits is now the network section. The last 64 is your local segment. So you get 2 to the 64th devices on your segment, and I think I have a number in here. Let's see.
That allows you,
so million,
on
billion,
my
trillion. What is that? I don't know. That's a large number.
18,000 trillion, whatever that is.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's how many. If I get a public IP6 address, that's how many I'm allowed.
A single IPv6, network.
It's like having your own internet.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that is pretty neat. I want my own internet.
So what we've done is we've blocked it off. So everything to the right of the 64 is your local network. Everything to the left is then broken up into subnetworks. And right now, only an eighth of it has been sliced up. The rest of it's actually being put aside for later.
Okay, so how is it being sliced up? Is it like, oh, Microsoft, you get this much because, well, you're Microsoft?
Oh, no, organizations are getting /48s.
Okay. Oh, so there is still CIDR netting involved?
Yes, they're still doing CIDR netting, but now they're CIDR netting only the 64 bits on the left-hand side, starting on the right-hand, starting at this block right here.
Right, because everybody gets 18 trillion, billion, whatever.
Exactly.
18,000 trillion.
So as an example, if I get a /32, you pretty much get the size of the whole internet, because that's the size of the whole internet. So if you get it allocated for your company, if you get a 48, you get that many bits. So you get, you know, a lot of the networks that you can have, and each network can be gigantic.
Okay. Well, that's great that takes care of the address problem. It's also really hard to read, but I mean, regardless of that, I mean, I know that you can compress it with like, you know, colon this and that, you know, there's ways to shorten it. No clue how that algorithm works, but regardless, it can be done. But how do I even just go about, like, say like tomorrow I want an IP6 because I want my 18 trillion addresses to allocate to, I don't know, darknet or something stupid. How would I go about just, do I call up IANA? Do I call up RIP? Who's the agency?
Provider.
Provider, yeah.
Well, you have 3 different methods you can go to. Number 1, if you have a network that allows Teredo, that's actually assigned by IANA automatically. So if you connect in to it, you're automatically assigned that. So you don't even have to have a personal assignment. It becomes an automatic assignment of this gigantic block of addresses. So that's the first type. That's called a tunnel.
Yeah, because that's
block.
Teredo is just a tunnel, right?
Exactly, and there's several Teredos.
And isn't that like the one that Mubix was talking about, provided by Microsoft? Don't they like give you one essentially based on DHCP?
No, the device itself automatically calculates what its own address is.
How? What, based on its MAC or something?
Based on its, depending on the type of tunnel. As an example, if you're using 6 to 4, which is another type of tunneling technique, it figures out what the IPv4 address of your gateway is, and then it takes the last part and it's your MAC address. So that's one method of tunnel. Teredo, what it does is it breaks it up and it says, here's my termination point out on the IPv4 network that I found a server, and then it takes your own IPv4 address and binds that into it, and then it has, which is usually your gateway device, your firewall device, and then what port you went out on, and then some random bits are shoved in there to make it hard to discover.
And by using a formula like that, you're not going to run into a conflict where 2 people try to have the same IP6 address?
No. The size is so large, we're talking, you know, all the grains of sand on the earth are larger. I mean, it's crazy.
Okay, so we've established that there's plenty of them and you can use a service like Teredo to get yourself one, but is that the only way? I mean, that's relying on some other service provider granting you one? How did you just show up on the internet and say, hey, I'm using this? Deal with it?
Yeah, there's actually 3 methods. One is your internet service provider issues you a block just like you do today.
Okay.
Companies like Comcast are starting to roll that out to consumers. Other things like the new Verizon cell phones will have those allocated to a cell phone automatically, which is pretty good. Oh yes, exactly. Yes, I think I have 2 with me right now.
Yeah.
So, so that's the one method, is that your ISP issues. The second issue is you can get it through a tunnel. And through that tunnel, there's, again, multiple different automatic tunneling types. You can get issued that. You can set up servers on those just like you would on a static address that you're assigned. You can set up servers because the number's not going to change.
Yeah, that's what I want, a static IPv6 address.
The third is you can go to IN if you want a large block, like you want a /48 or whatever, which is, pretty large. You can go and purchase. It's actually cheaper if you purchase by the end of the month, or excuse me, the end of the year, than it's going to be next year. They've made it cheaper to buy IP addresses, V6 blocks, than it is to buy V4 blocks. So that's what one of the economic incentives are, is I could go to IPv6 and I can have all these great range and addresses and billions of addresses.
Sure, but if you've got your public IP6 and you put your web server on it, how am I, one of the guys that's still on an IP4, and as well as the rest of the world, going to get to your website?
That's essentially what a lot of corporations are starting to realize, is that if companies like AT&T and Verizon and Comcast have run out of addresses, that's their customer base.
Yeah, I mean,
okay,
if they can't add any more customers, you're SOL.
Well, let me give you a good idea about this. Okay, so I have an IPv4 web server out there. And my organization or my customer has only an IPv6. They can't talk. They can't even do a DNS query to say, hey, I need to talk to you. So what's going to happen? Companies are going to get lots of help desk calls, or they'll just go elsewhere.
Yeah.
So if corporations don't move to dual stack, which is dual stack is native IPv4 and native IPv6
that
to
doesn't
connect
solve
you
the
to
problem
both
because
networks.
you're still using IP4 then, doesn't it?
Well, no, there's actually a precedence, which is pretty neat. Within the RFC and all the stacks that we have, all the modern stacks that we use today, what happens is IPv6 is always the default connection.
Okay.
Once it fails, it can't find an IPv6 native, it then tries to go through the tunnels. Like on Microsoft, it goes through 6-to-4 tunneling, it uses isotap tunneling, it goes through Teredo. If you have configured the IPv6 over HTTPS over IPv4 for Microsoft, it'll then go over that. And then if all those fail, it falls down to IPv4. So for a business, it only makes sense to move to IPv6 because their customer system has all these opportunities to try to get to them, even if they only have IPv4. For those people that are going to take a while to get there, those that only have IPv6, they'll never even see that they can't get connected. It's invisible to them. It's like, two ships
but it's kind of
passing in the night.
It's kind of like an alternate universe thing.
Yes,
so,
it is.
And only the tunnels connect them. So at what point is there a point at which we all just have to say goodbye to IP4, like at the same time, just be like, peace?
I don't think it's going to be in my lifetime before I retire.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like we're going to hold on to IPv4 for a while. What we have today is we have an ocean of IPv4. What we've decided was to put up islands of IPv6 and then create tunnels across those. As those islands start forming into larger and larger networks, what's eventually going to happen is seas of IPv6 with islands of IPv4. And eventually those islands are going to shrink to the point that they're non-useful anymore. That's kind of the concept. So the IETF and many of us have worked towards, how do we actually get us, from the IPv4 to the IPv6 range. We have to go through native IPv4. We'll have to go through a IPv6 over IPv4 or tunnels of some sort. We'll eventually get to dual stack, which is IPv6 and IPv4. And then some of the providers like Comcast are actually providing IPv4 over IPv6. And then eventually we'll end up with native.
I guess if you were on IPv6 and you need to go back in, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, what happens is their router by default will route you IPv6. So we'll try to go IPv6. If it can only get an IPv4 address, your system will create a tunnel, an IPv4 tunnel, go over and connect to their IPv4 NAT,
Now,
and then connect out to the network.
when you do 6 over 4, don't you lose the features of 6? I mean, don't you?
You actually lose multicast, you lose some of the performance because you are trying to push more bits through the network. That's the reason we really want to go to native IPv6 is we start losing performance, but from a security side, it actually has some benefits because the size of the bits tells us what kind of tunnel somebody's getting to us on.
Was it easy to identify? Like on your firewall, your router, whatever, are you going to be able to easily notice that there's IPv6 traffic going through?
Well, that's the problem. If the protocol is called Protocol 41, so if they did not block Protocol 41 on the router by default,
And that's
some
just a regular
organizations
protocol like GRE 47,
GRE or IP
whatever.
or anything else.
Okay.
So if they didn't block the layer 3 protocol, they probably have IPv6 traffic going in and out. Okay. From a tunnel standpoint, there's lots of things to block and there's lots of things to detect. As an example, Teredo, as he was talking about last week, that is IPv6 over a UDP packet with IPv6 crushed into it and broken up
Yeah.
over IPv4.
Yeah. So
So-
you still.
Yes.
So it's still the native. So when it comes out the other end, it's still the native IPv6 packet.
Exactly.
It just had been crushed up and put into multiple IPv4 packets.
Exactly. Then
Okay.
it has to be reassembled on the other side and it shifts out. But during that transit time, there's some problems. Some of the other problems are some of the protocols, because we're using public anonymous gateways,
Yeah.
essentially.
It just sounds like the performance would really suck.
In some cases, it can be a real problem. But native IPv6 actually has a land speed record right now because of the standardization to 64 bits, because of processor size being 64 bits. But we also have, you're looking at my neck.
Sorry, I was just looking at the your cord on the mic, and I was just hoping that it wasn't rubbing up against it.
Oh.
I'm sure it's fine. Yeah,
Here.
we're all good.
Put it up.
Yep.
There you go. So what the hell was I talking about?
You were talking about traversing firewalls with IPv6 and how when you split it up, the performance changes.
Yes.
And that there are some interesting complications that come along with that.
Yeah, things like your MTUs change. You know, the MTU of
Well, it sounds like everything
IPv4
changes.
Oh, yeah.
MTUs changes.
ARP is gone.
ARP is gone.
ARP
right?
is gone.
So DHCP is different.
DHCP
How do you
has
even
actually
know
been
that?
changed.
Okay, so I bring an IP6 device on my network, say it's a printer or something. I've got an IP6 thing on my LAN. How do I go and find it?
Well,
Like I can't. Do I just nmap? What do I do? Like how
okay.
is it? You know?
The nice thing about IPv6 is we have included multicast.
Okay.
Well, multicast has allowed us to do a ping to FFO2::1, and any device on the network, if I do an IPv6 ping, will actually respond back and say, "I am here, and here's my address." So you end up
Very
with a
much
list
like-
of everything.
This is very much like broadcast. It's
Yes, the difference is on the local network, it's like broadcast. When we actually traverse the router, we end up with all kind of other cool features. The ability to, just like this camera, wouldn't it be neat to not be forced to buy a big pipe for everybody to download?
yeah.
Especially when you're doing a live feed.
And we kind of pay a lot of money for bandwidth.
Yeah, IPv6 has, in its multicast capability, has a ability to point to a router, define a router as your rendezvous point, someplace out on the internet that has tons and tons of internet bandwidth, and then you provide that address to everybody, Twitter, whatever, and now you can have millions of people scale and watch you at the same time live. What makes that interesting is the router does the duplication of the bits and the rerouting, number one.
So I don't
Number
have to pay for the extra bandwidth.
It's one bandwidth,
out.
one stream out all the way to the rendezvous point, and the rendezvous
Yeah,
point.
but then that
reflects.
router is doing all the heavy lifting. Aren't they gonna, that's gonna be
That's-
expensive?
That's part of the spec for IPv6, and we already see Hurricane Electric and NTT doing that for their customers. There's several hundred
I mean,
rendezvous points out there free.
If the cost difference between streaming media to one person versus a million people was nothing, then
Anybody
you
can
change
do
the
it.
landscape of who can be the media, or who can broadcast to like millions of subscribers.
Isn't that what internet just did?
Well, yeah, it did in a
Isn't that
certain
what
way,
Twitter
but no,
just did?
not really though.
Facebook?
There's still like a lot of money that goes into the bandwidth to provide the bits for all of the downloads. You know?
Well, it actually should decrease the cost of live feeds.
Okay.
That's the very cool thing, and a lot of organizations are looking at that. Some of the IPTVs, the IP-enabled TVs that you can buy today,
Yeah.
are IPv6, and they're default ready for multicast. So instead of buying 75 channels, your television has the ability to go out and find the rendezvous point, get a feed of where the rendezvous points allow you to select through it. It then just connects to a rendezvous point of wherever that live feed is, wherever on the internet. Again, changes the model,
Yeah, sure
the way
does.
we think about broadcasting, in this case, multicasting.
Yeah, the protocol has changed as far as getting IPs, finding ones. I'm assuming that the tools that we know and love today have adapted so that I can use like Nmap, Wireshark, whatever, right?
Wireshark has done it.
Okay.
Nmap allows you to scan one address at the time, which means that for every address that you find, say you do a ping FFO2::1, you have to then take that and feed that into Nmap, all those unique addresses, and then it'll scan those devices.
So,
So
Nmap,
Nmap,
one at a time.
Yes, so one
So
at
you
a
have
time.
to generate a list of all of the IP addresses you would like to scan before you start your scan.
Absolutely. Okay, we also have things like our Nessus and Retina, pretty much anybody that does
everything.
vulnerability scanning, anything that does, network discovery, all of them are going to have to be updated. Unfortunately, I've been running around the community for the last 6 years and tapping on people's shoulders saying, hey, you guys need to prepare for this. And most of them, now it's getting to the end, most of them are suddenly realizing, oops, our products don't fully implement IPv6. And that's true with a lot of products. A lot of the forensics tools that I've been looking at, some of the tools you were talking about, some Windows forensics tools last week, you're flashing.
And we're
Dude, I don't know you that well.
Yeah, it does that.
A lot of those tools, when you bring up to look at network traffic, only looks at IPv4. They never upgraded to support IPv6. So a lot of tools are going to have to be rethought, which good for people that want to write programs.
Yeah. Well, so what does it mean to us as, curious individuals to be playing with IP6?
There's opportunities to learn. Actually, from a business standpoint, I'm not sure if you're interested in that, I suspect that a lot of companies are going to frantically need people that know IPv6 by probably January, February, March, based on them running out of space. So that's going to be a big issue. Actually, I have a link if you're interested on how to get a certification so you at least know how to get on the internet as a home user, which you can then leverage into work.
Yeah,
but realize we're talking, every business in the world that needs to migrate to IPv6 pretty quickly. There's opportunity.
Yeah, we'll need to migrate to IP6 because there's no more IP4 available. But,
Exactly.
But it's not like we're going to stop using IP4 tomorrow. We're
No,
still
we're
going
not.
to keep on with the tunnels and stuff. I mean, we're just human nature kind of don't like change. So we're going to keep grasping on to IP4 for as long as we can until all of a sudden it's no fun and enough has moved over to IP6 that you can just shut
Exactly.
it off.
Well, we have Google already moved to IPv6, Facebook. Akamai is moving so that anybody that serves up anything that Akamai serves up for patches and Microsoft and a lot of the other vendors, as soon as they move, all their content filtering will be upgraded, which is pretty cool. Are you running out of power?
Yeah, they do that, but we'll be all right.
So cool. So we're seeing a lot of organizations move. We've seen Wikipedia move to it. So we're seeing a lot of the open source and bigger companies that recognize there's a need. Unfortunately, a lot of companies that we do business with day to day haven't moved. Also, the cloud has to completely move to IPv6
Yeah,
too.
well, does it really change though? Because I mean, it's pretty transparent. Or shouldn't it be pretty transparent for the user? I mean, once you're on the internet with a public IP6 address, what does that mean to you? You're still typing in wikipedia.com, and it may translate to another IP6 address for you. But also, how does DNS know? That's kind of interesting.
DNS. Right now, we have an A record.
Yeah.
Well, in IPv6,
That's
because it's
quadruplet,
4
right?
times, that's a quad A record. It now comes out as quad A record.
So your browser, well, not even your browser, your system just knows, hey, he needs the address for this, but I have an IP6, so I'm going to ask for the quad A, and if they don't have it, I'll ask for an A, and and then go through my 6 to 4 tunnel?
So based on the precedents we talked about earlier, what will happen is IPv6 will enable a quad A lookup and a single A lookup across the IPv6 transport.
Okay.
If it can't find it there, it then goes to IPv4 and tries to look up that piece of information. If it fails there, you have no way of getting to it.
Well, at least it seems like it gracefully degrades.
Exactly. Exactly. It was a good design strategy.
So what, have you found any flaws in the design?
Maybe.
Yeah? Okay.
Tunnels are very problematic right now. Some of the tunnels they allow with misconfiguration, there's ways of listening in and redirecting man-in-the-middle attack type things. That's why you want to go to native dual stack instead of tunnels.
I think it's interesting, the whole Teredo thing, but I still don't like it, just out of principle of I don't like to bounce off someone else's stuff.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I mean, I know ultimately it's like my packets are going to go through other people's systems to get where they're going, but if I don't have to rely on an ISP or whatever it may be to provide me with an address or a routing point, then why would I?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's better to go native when possible. So that's going to be the big problem. The other thing is a lot of applications haven't upgraded. A lot of organizations, a lot of applications are meant for 32 bits. Mm-hmm. So the libraries they're using were only 32-bit libraries. So when the operating system suddenly supports IPv6 with 128 bits, those bits have to go someplace. So as an example, for a while there were a lot of log servers that when you received a log, it cut off, it only showed you the first 32 bits as being an address. So it actually took the hex bits,
ouch,
converted them to IPv4, and then took the rest of it and looked like it was a data set. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a problem.
Yeah,
so
that must be really bizarre.
Yes, it is. It's pretty. It's actually pretty cool to go in and do see an incident and see, wow.
It's the same IP address over and over and over, but it's not.
Exactly.
It's just that it has this first couple of characters that are the same.
Which is the same commonality because the address range is so large. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, how large? I mean, say I wanted to, okay, so say Nmap didn't have the issue of having to specify address by address in a text file or however you want to feed it. How long would it take me to just, I don't know, scan the internet? Because I know it's possible. I know it's possible to do it on the IP4 internet. I know people that have.
Yes. Hundreds of centuries is what it would take. Just to do your own network, your own subnet, the single subnet that you own, say, at your home.
Yeah.
If you were to brute force that, which is what that's called, it would take, hundreds of years.
Oh, I don't want to do that.
Well, this makes it kind of interesting. Recently, you'll love this. Recently, we're noticing.
There was not the broadcast. What was the equivalent
multicast.
of the multicast? So couldn't she just hit the multicast on the internet? And
no.
Does it not work like that? I'm having a feeling it doesn't work like that.
No, the routers actually block that on purpose. Win for the security.
Yeah, good. Because otherwise, yeah.
Early days, but that was a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. I know, cable modems back when they first came out, so much fun.
Oh yeah, they were.
Yeah. // anyway.
No. So from an IPv6 standpoint, the address range, extremely large, hard to scan. But a funny story is we're seeing in the IPv6 community, people attempting to do it. So probably 2 or 3 times a week I get calls, somebody's trying to scan my IPv6 network. They're never going to find us. We've calculated it's going to take 60 years for them to find my first server.
Oh my gosh.
We're taking bets that this guy will probably keep it going for weeks until he figures out that he can't scan it. So we're seeing this 2-3 times a week. It's hilarious.
That kind of, well, so is that why name servers are so important when it comes to IPv6?
Name servers become critical to be able to find devices. One of the other interesting attacks, if you want to call it, is early on people were deciding, I could make my servers named dead beef.
Yeah. Oh,
it's hexadecimal
because it is
so
A through F, yeah.
Or food, or
yeah.
you know, things like that. So people were actually naming those. So from a discovery, we were able to use tools to do DNS mapping to try to find devices on a segment. So that made it a little bit shorter too.
Yeah.
But even so, that took months to run it theoretically, because you know the home network is 64 bits.
Yeah.
You still have to take all those names 4 times across that range. So food would be that, and then dead food, and all the variations.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So
scanning, brute force scanning is not going to happen. What really is going to happen is things like DNS queries.
Yeah, I was about to say that's like an essential part of any pen test. You know, I mean,
Yes.
It's kind of like one of those obvious things that you don't even think about. You're just like, all right, what's on every host? You know, or what are all the hosts out there? Yeah.
But we have other protocols that give up names.
Well, you said the ARP's no longer there, so that takes that out of the question.
Well,
What did it get replaced with?
Well, it's interesting. Think about it. If I have a device that's dual stacked, I mean, you're thinking native only.
Yeah,
if I have
sure.
a device that's still stacked, all I have to do is look up all the hosts under IPv4.
Yeah, but
do
that's
a
still
quad,
just a transition thing. I mean, you
do
know,
a quad lookup and then look up the IPv6 devices. So yes, when it's native IPv6, it's going to be if the pen tester has no exposure to the DNS, the internal DNS server. They didn't make a mistake like, I don't know, allow zone transfers on the outside, because that's still out there. Oh, yeah, I know. I'll tell you a story later. If you don't have access to that, all you're going to be able to get to is anything that's publicly exposed, whether they looked it up in Google or whether they took standardized names and went across it. You can't brute force that space. It's just too large. So that kind of changes the exposure from an attack standpoint. So new techniques are going to have to be thought about.
I mean, you know, sure, it makes it harder for the attacker. I mean, it makes it a hell of a lot more confusing for sysadmin as well. It's just, I don't know, there's just so much space there.
Yes, there is. Well, what really makes it interesting, if you give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, so one of the big differences on IPv6 versus IPv4 is by default on an IPv4 device, how many IP addresses do you assign yourself?
Yourself, just one. How many more do you need? For each host?
For each host.
Yeah, each host needs one address.
Ah.
Well, I mean, it also needs to know what the broadcast and the gateway is, but yeah.
Right. Well, on IPv6 we have some additional concepts. Number one, we have the concept of a link local address. Link local is just for my local network. Just
is that the equivalent of 127.0.0.1, or are you talking about?
But that's
just
still a address that's different than the address which is your global address.
Okay.
And you can have a static global address, so people can get to you inbound. For outbound, you can either choose a static or a privacy address.
What's a privacy address?
Privacy address, they take the last 64 bits and they randomize it. And you can choose how often you want to randomize it.
So you've got a different address every time you make a lookup?
If you choose, yes.
That's kind of like Tor. Or not like Tor, but that's just the whole concept of like, I've got a different IP address every time I make a query.
Interesting,
Doesn't that break a lot of fundamental things that we think about the internet? We're like, I mean, just as simple as, I don't know, say like a voting site where you get to like, you know, where there's like a poll and you can only vote once per IP address. Like now
don't they use cookies?
Okay, sure, there's that too. But
if they don't use cookies, then it looks like
you
have...
clear those cookies too. You know, I'm just saying like, when...
Exactly.
Oh no, I got G-lined on this IRC server. Okay, reconnect.
Now you're starting to see some of the challenges to IPv6
that makes
as we
it
move.
so difficult to like ban things. It makes it so difficult to You know,
But now we can ban a whole subnet, not just the unique IP address. We can say this home user is bad.
we're going to need bigger banhammers.
Well, what's also difficult is how many blacklists out there support IPv6 today?
I don't know. You're talking about the like RBLs?
Like RBLs.
Oh, I didn't even
Like
think
the
about that.
SANS
So,
list, like all the other lists, they don't have that capability.
So you're saying spam's going to get worse?
We've already started seeing spam starting last year, going
Over
across
IPv6?
IPv6, and what they were attempting to do is, but fortunately, because of the way they gave an address, not a static address, they gave a self-generated address, which is based on the MAC address, which we were able to identify that it was a Microsoft box, a Dell box, designed in whatever week. There was
Yeah.
basically traceability back to the spammer.
Oh, I don't like that at all. When your IP address has your MAC address built, can you reverse that to get
That's
the
what
MAC?
that's what the yes, but that's
Oh,
what
well,
the
that's no
But that's
fun.
what the privacy address is about. Is
Okay.
so that you can hide that. But these spammers that have been doing this don't know about privacy addresses. So
Yet.
yes, don't tell anybody. So because of it, what's happened is you were able to track back to the unique device.
Yeah, but it still doesn't help you any. It's just, oh great, it was a Dell server. Whoop-de-doo. It was made in this week. I mean, okay, I'm sure law enforcement is getting giddy, but
Really? How would that look? Giddy. Law enforcement giddy. Do they rattle their guns? I don't know.
yeah, they wave in the air and they just shoot at things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just checking. Sorry.
No worries. But yeah, that's interesting. So privacy is new. What else is new?
A couple of the other things. We also have, we had the 1918 addresses, RFC 1918, the
Which one was
10, the 10 addresses,
Oh yeah,
the
the
1
10,
and 2.
172, 192s.
Exactly. Well, we have the same concept in IPv6.
Okay.
We have something called a unique local address. The unique local address you would assign, say you're in a corporation.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily need all of my hosts on my giant corporate network to have public routable IP addresses. That's just not good practice.
Exactly. So what you issue them is you issue them a ULA, unique local address, which is routable within your organization only, which is very cool. And you get 2 to the 16 networks. That's everybody
lot.
gets, yes.
That's a lot.
And you can ask for more if you want. It's free.
Well,
and it's
because they're
random.
because everybody gets them themselves. It's not like, are they still unique? Or do they all begin with the same
They begin with the first
text?
it says FC00.
Okay.
And then the rest of it you have to generate. There's an algorithm to generate
So
that.
if you see an IP address that says FC00, that's the same thing
That's
in
a
IP4
ULA.
land of seeing a 10 dot or a 192 dot or a...
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But then that last set of bits is all unique. And you use the time, you have to hash your time with your MAC address, you have to do an MD5 and several other things. It then generates what the rest of that routability is for that network. And then you can decide the size of the network in addition to that. So say you took the first 4 octets, which is FC00, you took the next one and you made that your network. Now you have, or the next 2, now you have 16 bits
That's
for your
plenty.
network? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think for most organizations it's
That's-
plenty.
yeah.
Which then you
And that,
use
like
to
we said, having
subnet.
your own internet.
Pretty much.
And then you're right, you subnet it, so here are the servers, here are the, you do your VLANs out and stuff like that.
It's funny you say that. One of the services I use is Hurricane Electric.
Okay.
Hurricane Electric is a tunnel provider, real trusted, great IPv6 DNS, great connections all over the world and such. No, I'm not selling. I don't own the stock or
worries,
anything. But what they did was I wanted a larger space, so they allocated me a /32. So for my home network, I have the size of the whole internet just in routability. Plus, that large address
You know what would be
space.
fun?
Is that great?
It'd be fun to run HoneyD on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come find me. You'll never find
Actually,
me.
I guess it wouldn't work because it relies on ARP. Man, everything's broken already.
Oh well, yeah. A lot of the ARP attacks go away, but what happens is now that goes to layer 3.
Okay.
There's
So is there an equivalent?
Yes,
like
there
like
is.
you said, just listening to that.
It's actually referred to as neighbor discovery. What happens is the local system sends its source IP, so we're talking layer 3, a 0, and then it tries to assign itself an address.
it just generates one.
It generates an address. either random or not based on MAC address.
Because
It
you could
sends
do that and not hit a collision.
Exactly.
Because there's so many of them, you could just guess an address and probability says that no one else is going to be using it.
And that's what this does, is if anybody else is using it, it goes, oops, okay,
Sorry.
let me change my address and let me resend to see if anybody else is on that address.
Right, because you're not going to like hit lightning. Lightning's not going to strike twice. You know, it's
Right, and that's called neighbor discovery.
Huh.
For a device to find the router, it
Yeah.
then performs a router discovery. It says, hey, where's the router? And then the router actually replies back, hey, I'm the default gateway. Here's all your configurations. It can, is depending on how the router discovery is configured, the router's configured. It can also include, hey, by the way, here's your DNS. You don't need to have DHCP anymore if you choose. So for setting up quick networks, say a show like this,
yeah.
you can put one wired wireless router in, connected to the IPv6 network. Everybody can connect in, get an address, assign an address in seconds, and be routable. With no changes, no configurations. It's pretty cool.
That's nice.
So yeah, I have a slide here for that. There's the tools so you can find out what your address is. What are your unicast address, what's your multicast address from Linux and Windows. And the second part is, oh, by the way, for it to, the process we refer to as identifying if there is a duplicate is referred to as DAD, or duplicate address detection.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, pretty funny. And it goes through the process, actually sends an ICMP packet, 130,
So
type
it
135.
tries to ping it before it tries to
Yes.
steal the address?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, how thoughtful.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you expect from your dad, right?
I guess.
So once you've gone through that, you have an address, you have routability, again, after you do the router advertising discovery, you're up on the network. At that point, your router can decide, this particular device, we only allocate link local address, so you can only communicate local. Or, I'm in a corporation, I'm going to also give you a ULA address so you can route within the organization. Or, wow, this is a desktop, so we're also going to assign you an additional global address. So the point I'm trying to bring up is no longer do you get a single address, you get a scoped address. You typically get 5 addresses by default.
Wow.
So changes the way we think. And by the way, from a penetration tester standpoint, now we've got 5 addresses to find out if something's bound to it, not just a single one. Changes the way, again, we think.
Yeah. Wow. Not only are all the tools broken, but the techniques have to change dramatically.
Yeah, I actually teach a class on techniques.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how those evolve as this is adapted, because I'm sure a lot of it right now is relying on the dual layer or dual link, just having the dual stack, having IP4 as well as IP6.
Right.
So that makes things easier. But in a world where it's only IP6, then a lot changes. My mind is blown. And I think this is great, but I really just want to sink my teeth in now and just try to get myself an address at home and start playing with that. Where would I go to learn more about setting up an IP6 network or getting myself an IP6 address online?
Well, I'll provide you a bunch of links, but in addition, you can go to Hurricane Electric and get hooked up and be on the internet V6 in about 15 minutes.
Nice.
So it's oh, by the way, they also sponsor BGP if you decide you also want BGP for your own environment to play with.
Ooh,
yes.
That'd be fun.
Yes, life becomes very interesting in IPv6.
That is so cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate
you
taking the time to school me on this. I'm sure I'll have plenty more questions, but do you do the Twitter or any of those?
Yeah, I have a Twitter, IPv6sec, which is little security things on a regular basis and IPv6 things, and I also have a website, and I'll provide you the website.
What is the address there?
The website, it's, let me give you the address. I get to cut all this. It's one of the sites.google.com/sites/IPv6 security.
Sweet. Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Netflix delivers movies directly to your home, saving you time, money, and hassle. As a Netflix Unlimited member, you get DVDs by mail in about 1 business day. Plus, you can instantly watch thousands of TV episodes and movies, streaming directly to your PC, Mac, or right to your TV via a Netflix-ready device like the Xbox 360, PS3, and the Nintendo Wii console. Watch as many movies as you want. Shipping is free and there are never any late fees nor due dates. Keep the movies as long as you like. DVDs by mail, plus instantly right to your TV. Get unlimited movies 2 ways for only $8.99 a month. As a new member and a Hak5 viewer, you can get a free trial membership. Go to www.netflix.com/HAK5 and sign up now. Be sure to use this URL so that they know we sent you.
Well, that just about wraps up this episode of Hak5. Of course, we value your feedback, so you can send that to feedback@hak5.org. And of course, you can support the show free and easy by subscribing on iTunes or YouTube. Hak5.org/subscribe. Find all the wonderful ways you can get your Technolist delivered on a weekly basis. It just shows up and you can be happy. Otherwise, if you'd like to support the show with your dollar, hak5.org/store. Plenty of good stuff to be had there. And I want to just, thank everybody over at Toorcon for making it such a great experience. Always have so much fun in San Diego, and I'm looking forward to all the other fun Toorcon stuff in the future. So, cheers to you guys for that. We will be back next week with more regular episode Hak5 kind of stuff. In fact, Jackie Talbot will be joining us, so that will be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. And until then, I thought there was something else. Oh, right, trivia. Yeah, we're going to get back to all of that stuff next week, and the channel's going to be back. Many segments. I think I totally derailed. What was I trying to say? Oh, trust your Technolist. I think that's it, yeah. Man, I'm all over the place. Whoa, whoa. Oh, that pause a few episodes back, didn't mean to leave that in. I was totally going to cut it out. And I forgot to. It happens. Now over to me and Joe.
If I scan, this is how long it takes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So scan the whole internet. If you get a chance and you have a client that wants me to scan the whole internet, call me. I could use that.
Oh my God,
work.
could you bill for that?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Got a bill for 107 trillion centuries.